Imagine standing at the base of the Alps in late autumn. Above you are peaks that touch the sky, covered in eternal ice, and guarded by tribes who skin their enemies alive. You have 50,000 men, 9,000 horses, and 37 massive African war elephants. Every logic of the ancient world says you should turn around. But if you are Hannibal Barca, you keep marching. Today, we unlock the story of the most audacious military gamble in human history. A journey that brought the greatest empire on earth to its knees. Welcome to Time Unlocked. To understand why Hannibal chose the mountains, you have to understand the map. Rome controlled the Mediterranean Sea. Their navy was the undisputed superpower of the water. Hannibal knew that if he sailed toward Italy, his fleet would be sunk before he ever saw the coast. His only option was the back door, the Alps. The Romans laughed at the idea. They believed the Alps were an impassable wall of ice that no army, let alone elephants, could ever breach. Hannibal used their arrogance against them. He chose the path of most resistance because it was the only path where he wouldn't be expected. The crossing began in late September, and it was a descent into madness. From day one, the paths were so narrow that a single pack mule slipping meant losing a week's worth of grain into the abyss. But the cold wasn't the only enemy. Local Gallic tribes, the Alabrages, occupied the heights. They rolled massive boulders down onto Hannibal's columns, turning the narrow passes into slaughterhouses. Hannibal had to lead elite mountain units to scale the peaks at night, just to clear the way for his main force. As they reached the higher altitudes, the real nightmare began: the snow. New snow fell on top of old, frozen ice, creating a slippery death trap. At one point, a massive rockslide completely blocked the path. There was no way around, and the men were starving. This is where Hannibal's genius shone. He ordered his men to cut down the few stunted trees nearby and build a massive inferno against the rock. Once the boulders were glowing red hot, he poured vast quantities of old wine and vinegar over them. The extreme temperature shift, the thermal shock, caused the solid rock to crack and shatter. His men worked in shifts for 3 days, literally carving a road out of the mountain. It is one of the most famous examples of engineering under pressure in military history. When the Carthaginian army finally descended into the Po Valley of northern Italy, they looked like ghosts. Hannibal had lost nearly half of his infantry and thousands of horses. Of the 37 elephants that started the journey, only a few remained. Most would die shortly after the first battles due to exhaustion and the cold. But the mission was accomplished. Hannibal was in Italy. Rome's northern borders were wide open, and the Roman Senate was in a state of absolute panic. For the next 15 years, Hannibal would remain in Italy, winning legendary battles like Cannae and Trasimene. He never lost a major engagement on Italian soil. He didn't just cross a mountain range. He crossed the threshold of what humans believed was possible. He proved that even the most powerful empire can be threatened if you are willing to risk everything on a single, brilliant idea. Centuries later, the phrase, "Hannibal ad portas Hannibal is at the gates," would still be used to frighten Roman children. Thank you for joining us as we retrace the steps of the man who dared to challenge the mountains. If you think the truth of history is more epic than any movie, subscribe to Time Unlocked, and share this video with someone who loves a good underdog story. What is the most impressive military feat you've ever heard of? Let us know in the comments below.